I'm Scott.
I'm Ben.
I'm TJ.
And this is a review. On today's episode, which is episode 49, we'll be reviewing Black Mirror Bandersnatch. Black Mirror Bandersnatch is the first Black Mirror movie, I guess, but okay, let's just get right into this. Black Mirror is basically already movie length episodes, right?
Yeah, most are about an hour and a half.
Yeah, the newer seasons, I think they used to be 40 minutes, right? And now they've been kind of getting longer and longer and longer. So, just calling this a movie doesn't really track well for me right off the bat. It just feels like another episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah, no, it's more than that. I'd call it an event.
Well, yeah. So, the story here, before we get into what the event is, so to speak, the gimmick, if you will, is basically it follows the story of creepy Steve Jobs, as Ben put it, trying to program a choose-your-own-adventure game back in the 80s, and he loses his mind. So basically this movie is getting a lot of buzz. It's a Netflix original movie because it is a choose-your-own-adventure movie. So basically, there will be random prompts as the movie goes along to choose left or right. You have two decisions. You want to eat Frosted Flakes or Wheaties or whatever. And it'll give you a set timer, and you have that amount of time to choose, and the movie doesn't stop. It just keeps going. It kind of just freezes on that or zooms in on whatever it is, and then it inputs your selection and continues, right? So yeah, what did you guys think about Bandersnatch?
It was pretty neat. It was pretty neat.
All right, review's over. Thank you, guys.
No. Obviously, a lot of the draw to this is that choose your own novel. I mean, I remember being a kid fucking around with the Goosebumps choose your own adventure books. I really got a kick out of as a kid. So this is sort of a nostalgic appeal for me, when they tap into that with the period setting too. But it was pretty compelling. The story that they put you in is kind of it transfers over real well, I think. It feels it takes that book element, but it kind of creates, I thought it was pretty well acted and kind of had a slick style to it, and it's kind of cool to go down the rabbit hole a little bit. It's pretty entertained for good portion of it.
I was along for the ride pretty much up until 3 or 4 times after we saw the credits, when we continued to keep going.
Well, that was the weird thing with this movie first of all, we all watched this as a big group, and we kind of were just shouting out what we wanted to see happen as we went, and just kind of doing it that way, kind of voting by committee. And just watching the movie and the experience, watching with a group was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just that, making a game out of it and seeing how the movie reacts to what you pick in real time. There's a fun novelty to that. And yeah, it gets to this point though, when the credits are over, where you've kind of seen your ending, and it kind of rewinds, and it's okay, well, what if you had chosen... It gives you the option to choose different options at kind of pivotal moments.
Yeah, it takes you back to, a check mark in a video game.
Right. Yeah. But there's not really, it just kept on going, and then, it was kind of interesting, and it was kind of fun to see kind of what these different paths we could go on were. But it did get kind of, to this point where, okay, are we still actually watching the movie? Is this, part of it, or is this just, supplemental? Is this just saying what we could have seen? It was kind of unclear exactly what that was.
Right.
After a while, it got stuck in the loop that was almost part of the movie in and of itself. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, because it ended up going back to, once again, get the bunny from Dad.
Right.
Which is where the first time we had looped in those kind of check places.
Right. Mm-hmm. And being that it's Black Mirror... it's very bleak. Every episode of Black Mirror, except for maybe 2, very bleak, very dark, and very meta. It's very, it lets you in on it. It starts, the characters start reacting to you as a controlling force at one point. which is where I think that the acting starts to get really bad. Personally, like, I thought for a while the movie was working. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of interested in what the story is. I'm compelled as, like, where this is going. And then once it starts turning into the, like, Big Brother is watching you, Big Brother is controlling you thing, and it's like, we know that we're controlling it already, so it's not that big of a twist for them to, like, realize that, I guess.
I was shocked.
It's sort of like it flirts with that meta line.
Yeah.
I feel like where it's got one foot in the door of like, yes, we are, like, you are reacting to someone's choices, but like Scott said, you know, we're in on the gimmick from the get go. It's not like we're in a movie breaks the fourth wall where you don't expect it. Where like it's direct audience addressal. It's like they're commenting on what you are already doing,
right?
Anyways,
and what they're kind of trying to do is there's a point in the movie in which the character is questioning his own choices, if he has free will or not, and they're trying to look at you, the viewer, and be like, do you have free will? Are you really influencing the story, or aren't you? And yeah, it's kind of the point at the end is that most of the choices are kind of it'll influence what happens a little bit, but overall what you're going to get to is going to be the same, even if you're missing certain bits or not. Really what this is a less entertaining Telltale game. Like the Telltale Walking Dead or the Telltale Back to the Future. They're adventure games, and they basically are just telling a story, and eventually you get to a point where it says, do you want to kill Gamora or do you want to kill Drax, the Guardians of the Galaxy one. And yeah, that changes how the ending is in that certain characters are alive or dead, but the end kind of accomplishment is the same no matter what. And I feel like this definitely took a huge amount of work out from those games of just saying like, okay, it's this or that, but what this or that is doesn't change the broad strokes necessarily.
Right. I mean, more than anything, we just played a video game that we watched.
Yeah.
You make choices, you watch them pan out, and if you get to a point where you can't go any farther,
it
they
rewinds
reset you.
Yeah, that was a little annoying that they would even kind of give you that. That I think for a movie they should have given less of that. That shouldn't have been an option. There shouldn't have been a failure option. I think it should have literally gotten to a point where the movie goes to credits and it's over.
But that being said, we failed our first question.
Well, apparently, yeah. But it was a trick question. Like, there's no way you could, like, you say no to the question, but you say yes to the overall question.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's not it's like they give you an offer at a business, and you have the option to accept or decline. And if you accept, it basically the business sells out your idea, and you're fed and you're a loser, and it's done. And they make it really quickly, and the character doesn't lose his damn mind. But
which is the happy ending.
If you
choose no,
if you choose no, he just decides to work on it on his own, which you wouldn't have known from choosing no. It's like the answers don't give you enough context to always know what they're gonna do, which is a lot like these these games where they give you yes or no. Sometimes you'll say one thing and it's like it'll go off in a completely different direction. It's like, whoa, no, I just said no. Like, you didn't have to spit coffee in his face too, like, But yeah, and a lot of people have been saying how this is a very revolutionary thing. This has never been done before, and it's like, yeah, well, YouTubers have been trying this for years. Ever since Choose Your Own Adventures have been a thing, movies in smaller forms have been trying this. This is definitely one of the most fully realized and mainline commercial versions, I think, that we've seen of this, where you actually have it on a Netflix or a streaming platform like that. But yeah, if you go on YouTube, you can find all kinds of Choose Your Own Adventure stories, and like advertising is delved into this, and it's not a new concept, quote unquote. It's just that Black Mirror is dark and gritty and mainstream.
You know what it felt like when they were winking at the camera going like, what should we do?
Yeah.
It felt like watching Dora the Explorer with my little cousins and her looking at the camera being like, should we go to the mountain or the alligator pit? And like, that's kind of what it felt like to me.
That's what I mean by like the acting kind of starts to fall apart towards the end once it does get into like really making the characters choose between like two things that it's like, what do I do? And it's like, okay, now we feel like a game from the 90s where it's like one of those like video reel, like where they filmed on VHS real actors. You had to like, it's like one of those games. It's
like
in reverse.
That Community episode,
yeah,
where they play the West game with Vince Gilligan.
Oh my God, bullets.
Something
pile
like
of
that.
bullets.
Pile of bullets.
It's exactly like Pile of Bullets. Yeah, it's except Pile of Bullets, a lot more cocaine, a lot more fun. But yeah, I don't know. Like overall, personally, I get a little tired of Black Mirror. I feel like Black Mirror gets a lot of acclaim, and on one hand, I like the fact that it exists. I like that there's a modern Twilight Zone-esque show that has a decent production value that is popular, but every single episode is the same basic idea, which is that technology is too good to be true and will bite us in the ass. And it's like Twilight Zone in that, like, you could sum up every episode by being like, gotcha, asshole. But with Black Mirror, it's always specifically technology in very, like, kind of the same tier of technology, which is, like, social engineering, make your life easier kind of stuff. And I don't know. It's like, you just don't get too surprised by it anymore. It's, like, kind of entertaining on a pulpy level, but then where it ends up, it's just kind of like, oh, okay.
It's all just different versions of the TV original movie on Disney Channel, Smart House. You guys remember the Smart House?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I really bit them in the butt.
Black Mirror is a gritty reboot of Smart House.
I'm saying it. I mean, controversial, I know. But
It's like they just took Rod Serling, inserted him into... Imagine, if you will, a house. A house from the future that is smart.
Smarter than your average house.
A smart house that can exist only in the Twilight Zone. But yeah, I mean, like I said though, it is an entertaining thing to watch. I could see this being really fun if you're in college or in high school and you have a bunch of friends that are into this kind of thing or into Black Mirror and everyone watches it on their own or watches it as a group or whatever. And then you can all kind of like sit around and, oh, I got this ending. Oh, did he chop off his dad's head in yours? What? No, he didn't even kill his dad. Like, I could see there being a lot of fun there. Once again, I kind of just wish that instead of letting you rewind over and over again, which is honestly probably a better choice. It's more streamlined, but I think it probably would have been more interesting if it would have just like cut to credits and been over, and you had to start over from the beginning over and over and over again to like get to, because it would have made you have that feeling more what they were kind of trying to do with the movie, where the characters are starting to kind of remember things from the resets, but they didn't really follow through with that really well.
Yeah, and the beginning, that was actually really interesting. With
Yeah.
the plot itself sort of goes off the rails, where I don't think they have room for that type of, like, Groundhog Day stuff anymore. Which is, I think, that would have been...
A better direction.
Yeah, exactly. And then commit to one narrative, but then just have this recognition, like, happening in real time, like, where you play with, like, the knowledge hierarchy, and, like, they could... As you go through the wrinkles, the characters in the show could be missing out on details that you see, and like then you get frustrated because they pick the wrong ones.
Right.
And, like, you really
the dramatic irony of
you
it.
have that meta level of where like the choose your own adventure is actually happening in like both like two different planes, and it's like you're getting frustrated with like them in the thing, and like they could like go down this path because of your decisions.
They needed that moment in the show where the show gets you. And it never had that moment where it's like, oh, fuck, who's controlling me? It's always this fun little game where you're fucking with this guy. You know what I mean? Like,
there's kind of a moment midway through our experience where I was like, okay, is it really just leading us to a thing based on something really early?
Yeah.
That I felt like they were going to pull it over on us. But then we had to go back, and the whole time we were like, we wish we chose the Netflix option.
Yeah.
And then it gave it back to us, and I was like, okay, so this is like way
just a
more
joke.
than I thought. Although that option was great.
It was
Led
a
to
great
some
option.
great stuff.
Yeah, choose the Netflix option if you get the chance. But yeah, you nailed it on the head right there, Ben, in that, like, they, very early on, too, and that's something that Black Mirror will always do that frustrates the hell out of me, is they'll introduce a nugget of a very interesting idea, and then they'll just steamroll over it with the most basic, obvious idea. You know what I mean? Like, they'll go in the other direction, and it's like, oh, we're doing the talking to people, and now you get to choose an option where Netflix is telling the character that he's in a thing and they're controlling him, and it's like, okay, like that idea you had about like the characters are remembering the resets, and like they did start to do this, and then they literally just drop it completely out of the movie. And to its credit, maybe that's because we didn't reset that many times after that. Like that was the only hard reset we did, right?
I think what happened was we messed up at an early reset, but could fall farther down that rabbit hole.
Well, that's
so
what
we
I'm
kept
wondering.
going down the rabbit hole, and then it would just take us to the point where we could either fall down the rabbit hole further or go down a slightly different path. And then when that ran out and ended in a dead end, it took us a step farther. So I think it was just slowly showing us all the options at the end of it.
Yeah.
That's my assumption of that. But they did bring that thing up one more time where the characters remember it. There's a very subtle nod to it where he sees his kind of like computer video game developer like hero again, and he goes, "Told you I'd see you in another life." And that's the only other time they really mention them coming back and kind of having a knowledge of these past decisions. But they do kind of try, which makes me think maybe there's more if we kept exploring, but they were really subtle like that after that point.
It could be, but overall, I don't see it being there. It seems like it's just kind of the surface level where you go with this. But I think the deeper layers of like resetting, and maybe even compelling you to go into paths that would lead to a reset more, so that you are forced to have those building blocks. Whereas maybe you're right, maybe they were there, and we just don't know. But it's hard to say. I mean, like we said in the beginning, we did kind of sit there and go through a lot of the different options, and it kind of just led in different directions that didn't seem super relevant to each other. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's kind of random, like, oh, what if you choose this instead of this thing happens, but we don't really see how it overall resolves in that realm. So I don't know, it's tricky to talk.
It feels like we got the best ending the first time when we went all the way through and it showed us the credits, and then it showed us a bunch of dead ends we could have ended up at.
But then, well, it shows the daughter of the programmer guy like found the main character's work and was remaking his game, and it was saying that was the movie we're watching.
Right.
And then we made her destroy the computer. And then it just started going back and like doing stuff for her. So I think when she destroyed the computer, that was supposed to be the ending.
That's like the kill.
Unless she goes to destroy it with the T and stops, and then it carries on.
It just keeps going. Yeah, we'll never know, because I don't think I want to rewatch this again.
I'm okay with not knowing.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's one of those things that it is a rabbit hole experience where I could see people getting really sucked into this. But the overall story and the performances aren't compelling enough for me to want to do that. And I think, like, there's a game that this reminded me of a lot called the Stanley Parable, where you walk down a hallway and you have a decision, left or right, and it tells you to go left, and you can go right, or you can go left. And every time it'll take you to a certain point, it'll reset you. But then the narrator will keep commenting on decisions you made, and it builds on itself. And it reminded me of this, but then this didn't have the same sense of humor, and it didn't have the same sense of grandiose omniscience that this game had. And I think that was what was missing, was there needed to be a sense of omniscience either from a character, which we kind of had from the programmer. I think we needed to have a more weird sense of omniscience where there was something even greater than our decisions happening, that were pushing us to make those decisions.
Right.
I think that was missing from this.
I think they tried to do that with him going into the dream and seeing all those files that his dad was watching him and had pictures of him from the future, even though he was in the past.
Right, and that was supposed to be like, oh, they're
watching
the
us.
footage, and Yeah, that was the closest moment where we had to that. Like, going back to the Stanley Parable, there's a way where you can go into a door and there's a giant room that's filled with monitors, and there's all these different, here's choice A, here's choice B, and it like paths every decision you made. I think that was what they were basically going for at that moment. It just didn't
pan out.
It wasn't big enough. It needed to be a little bigger.
Like, if they would have committed to when the programmer is going off about, like, being in, like, an extra dimensional kind of plane where you can, like, start and stop, and, like, tapping into some sort of, like, hack where windows or, like, space-time continuums and stuff, that would have been more neat. Like, go a little more cosmic, go a little more interstellar-y, you know, especially with the spoilers, like, the bookcase sequence and stuff. Like, if they really would have committed to it, that might have been cooler. Like, kind of go down that, you know, string theory, kind of theoretical astrophysic, like, time plane, like, really go down that rabbit hole.
Totally.
That would have been pretty badass, actually.
I think they were almost doing a choose your own adventure of how to write this movie, and they themselves got caught in this weird convoluted mess of where do we take this. They couldn't quite commit to which direction to take this movie. But, you know, I guess that's part of the problem with making a movie with multiple endings and multiple this and multiple that. So I think we got to give them a lot of credit based on that. But, yeah, I think we're ready for final thoughts. So, TJ, final thoughts on Bandersnatch.
I'd see it. I'd say it's an experience. I mean, it's the first time a movie's done it on this scale. It's really cool. It was fun to do. Am I going to rewatch it? No. But I have people at work who talk about it and go, I've watched it 3 or 4 times already to try to get to different things, different ways. And hey, that's pretty awesome that you can do that. I mean, huge applause to the filmmakers and everyone involved. This is a great, epic feat. I'd say 8 endings out of 10.
All right, Ben, what'd you think?
I think that the most value that this has is, like you said, TJ, like taking this into like mainstreaming this style of storytelling and like kind of opening up, you know, the rabbit hole of like, okay, how could we maybe see movies like this that do this like in the theaters, and like getting this technology like where you do have like people voting on like the decisions and like, yeah, kind of like buzzing in and stuff, and like doing it for like a big blockbuster space adventure or something, like maybe like going deep and exploring more with this type of stuff. Like, yeah, I think it's pretty neat. But like you said, I'd maybe want to do it like every like few weeks or like once a year and like play it almost as like those games that you have on DVD, like a film clip or whatever. I don't know the name, but
Seen it.
Yeah. Where you're like kind of doing it and like taking it back out and playing. But yeah, I'd give it a 7.5 remotes out of. Did you say remotes?
I said endings.
Remotes. 7.5 remotes out of 10. It's pretty neat.
All right. This movie is very entertaining, but it's entertainment that's definitely built on a gimmick. And it is an interesting gimmick, to be sure. And it is one that is highly entertaining. I don't know if I'll rewatch it again either, but I could see myself sitting down and watching it with a different group of people and just seeing what happens and seeing how it plays out with other people. That could be interesting. There's a lot of possibilities. But yeah, at the end of the day, it is a gimmick. And the movie itself isn't going to be talked about as much as it is what this is, what it's done. And yeah, I agree with you, Ben. I'd love to see in the theaters where everyone could vote on what they want to see happen, and then you won't know what's going to happen. You actually wait and see what the audience decides and have that pick. I could see Netflix doing more of these where you have it connected to your phone and everyone gets to weigh in and pick, where you could have more options. You could have up to 4 options, 3 options. Yeah, I like to see what this could be, but yeah, I don't want this to be the new 3D. I don't want every single movie to be a choose your own adventure. But I would like to see what they could do. Bandersnatch as a movie, not too bad, entertaining like most Black Mirror. But as a concept, yeah, I'd say it's definitely worth a watch. So overall, I think I would give Black Mirror, Bandersnatch, 6.5. I'd give it a 7 ashtrays.
Ooh.
Out of 10.
7 ashtrays to the face.
7 ashtrays to the face out of 10. Yeah. But,
Strong.
you know what? Props to Netflix for doing stuff like this. This is, like, perfect kind of experiment to do for a platform like Netflix. And I just kind of want to see what they go for next.
Yeah, keep experimenting.
Yeah, they've been successful thus far. And, keep the hits coming. So, yeah, this has been our review for this week. We're going to keep on keeping on. We'll keep it a surprise what we're going to review next because I don't know what we're going to review next. There's a bunch of movies out, and we'll just have to wait and see. And so will you. So, I'm turning into Mark Wahlberg. You're going to have to wait and see. You're going to listen to the review. You're going to like it. All right, bro?
Say hi to your mother for me.
And on that note, this has been a review. I'm Scott.
I'm Ben.
I'm TJ.
Thanks for listening.